Let's call this meeting to order, please. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the February 16th meeting of the Planning Commission. Before we start, what?
Wetland Board.
I know that.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
yes, got it. Yes, Wetland Boards is part of the Planning Commission, and we will do that. But before we start, I'd just like to, for those of you who've never been to one of these meetings or maybe watching us, we're the Planning Commission, which is also the Wetlands Board. We're appointed by the Board of Trustees, 7 members, volunteers, appointed, we're not elected. And we are an advisory board only, meaning that whatever we decide here tonight, whatever's moved, it goes on to the Board of Trustees for final approval. We're just advisory. So the point is that whatever you tell us tonight, when it comes time for that, we listen, we make a recommendation, but you'll have another opportunity when it goes to the board who makes the final decision. So with that, we have 3 things basically on tonight's agenda. It's a full agenda, so get ready, relax, settle in. This may take a while, but we have, as I said, the Wetlands Board is a part of the Planning Commission. And the first item will be a Wetlands Board meeting. And before I go on, I just want to introduce one of our elected officials, Mike Shostak in the back, our treasurer. So just so you know that, and well, Neil, he's part of our board. But so the first thing on the agenda then is to go is a separate agenda is the Wetlands Board, completely separate from what we'll talk about later. And we have a quorum, so we can do business. Need 4 out of 7. We have 5, and so we have a quorum. And the first thing is we have public comment only on matters pertaining to the Wetlands Board. And things that are not on the agenda, okay? That gives you an opportunity to say anything you want about other than what's on the agenda. You'll have plenty of time for those items after we hear it. So if I don't see anybody jumping up for the public comment, you'll have plenty of time to make your comments. Approval of the minutes, we had, the last meeting was on August of 2025, okay? So we have those minutes, we have to approve them. Moved? Moved and second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so what we have is a public hearing right now on Bloomfield Hollows. And again, it's not about the site plan, it's not about anything except the wetlands. And so, Andrea.
Oh, hi, good evening, Board. My name is Andrea Bibby. I am the Director of the Planning, Building, and Ordinance Department here at Bloomfield Township. Just a brief introduction to the presentation that will shortly be presented by the Township's wetland consultant, Niswander Environmental. I just want to point out that the request that you are to hear now and to deliberate on in this portion of the Wetland Board meeting is you will consider, it's actually a wetland application that has been submitted to the township. As part of that wetland application, the applicant is requesting to impact approximately 500 square feet of an existing wetland that lies on the property. And so your duty now would be to consider that wetland permit. I just want to let you know, which you are familiar with the process, but to let the public know that even if the Wetland Board were to approve the wetland permit, it certainly in no way approves the site plan. These are separate items. These are separate boards. You're wearing your Wetland Board hat right now, and then later on, you'll be wearing your site plan hat. In that case, then we will discuss the details of the actual site plan. So I just wanted to kind of explain that and what the process was. And with that, I'd be happy to introduce Jeff Bridgeland. He works for Niswander Environmental on behalf of the township. Anytime that we have a development that comes to the township in which an applicant is seeking to impact a wetland, Bloomfield Township does have a wetland ordinance, and oftentimes our wetland requirements actually go above and beyond the requirements at the state level, in which any wetland that gets impacted in the township does require a wetland permit. So with that, I do want to introduce Jeff, have him come up here, and he can walk you through. He has a slideshow that he's prepared, and he'll be able to address what he found out on the site and what the proposal is, and then also make a recommendation based on his expertise.
Come on, but while you're warming up, One housekeeping thing, if you would, please turn your phones off or put them on silent. I don't want to have phones ringing all over the meeting while there's people speaking. Thank you.
Hello.
You too.
My name's Jeff Bridgeland. I'm an ecologist with Nice Wander Environmental, and we are the wetland consultant for Bloomfield Township. We'll be talking about the proposed Bloomfield Hollow project today. I'll kind of go over what the applicant's wetland consultant found on site. I'll give a description of the wetland and natural feature setback impacts, and then I'll talk a little bit about the site plan review process that we went through with the township and with the applicant. So the site, which is shown here in yellow, oops, here we go. It was delineated by ASTI Environmental in June 2023. We determined that all the wetlands that they flagged were accurately delineated in the field. The main features on this property, there are 8 wetlands, wetlands A through H, and an enclosed drain here, this white line. So this figure that you're seeing is from ASTI's wetland location map as part of their wetland delineation report. I actually added the white enclosed drain line. That was not identified by ASTI Environmental, which is not surprising. It's an enclosed drain. It doesn't show up on any of the typical online maps that wetland consultants typically use when determining if there's, we kind of do it like a desktop review prior to going into the field to see what we should be looking for, and enclosed drains don't usually show up. So it's not surprising that it was missed, but so I added this white line on here. It's approximate, it's not exact, but these other wetlands here are exact. They were GPSed in the field by ASTI. So there's 8 wetlands, wetlands A through H. Wetland A is down here in the southwest corner. Wetland B is this linear feature right here. A and B are both man-made ditches and not much more than that. Wetlands D and E are here in the southeast corner. Wetland E extends off-site onto the adjacent property owner's site. There's wetland F, which is up in here. It extends slightly off-site to the north. Wetland G, which is this very small little feature right here. This is a scrub shrub wetland. And wetland H, which is this larger wetland here. And this is a vernal pool that extends off-site to the north as well. So I'll talk in depth mostly about wetlands B and C tonight. But in essence, all 8 wetlands total about 1.45 acres on the property. Like I said, they were all accurately flagged by ASTI. All the on-site wetlands are regulated by the township due to the essential clause. We determined that they're essential to the natural preservation of the natural resources within the township. Regarding whether or not they are regulated by the state, by EGLE, stands for Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. They're the state agency that has jurisdiction over the regulatory status of wetlands. We think that EGLE will probably regulate wetlands B and C. So typically wetlands are regulated if they're greater than 5 acres in size, or if they're within 500 feet of a stream or a lake or a pond. In this case, it's a little bit different because we're dealing with an enclosed drain, and it's been our experience that EGLE is a little inconsistent when determining regulatory status with enclosed drains. Based on my personal experience, they tend to regulate wetlands that are directly connected hydrologically to it. So that's why we feel that wetlands B and C will probably be regulated by EGLE because there are direct hydrologic connections to the drain via catch basins and culverts. So it is up to EGLE to make their determination on whether or not they're going to take jurisdiction over it. And we've strongly advised the applicant to reach out to EGLE for what they call a pre-application meeting to get their determination on those 2 wetlands in particular. Talk a little bit about the site plan here. This is what we've seen as the final site plan. You can see there's a access driveway coming in from Franklin Road here, parking in the north and a little bit down here. The building itself is proposed for this area, and then it kind of terminates at a cul-de-sac right here. So as far as wetland impacts go, these are pretty minor. From, we've gone through a lot of wetland board meetings in the past, and this is a very minor impact. They're proposing to impact 414 square feet with the driveway crossing in wetland B. The crossing is 13.8 feet long by about 30 feet wide. The actual area they're going to be crossing it's not this exact area, but it's very close to this. This is the linear ditch. This is kind of the very southern terminus of this ditched feature. So the impact is going to be slightly north of that. But it is essentially just the ditch that they're going to be impacting. This feature extends from the southern property boundary to the northern property boundary, so it's unavoidable. If you're going to develop anything east of this drain, or of this ditch rather, the wetland has to be impacted. It's an unavoidable situation. So because this wetland impact is so minor, we're talking 0.009 acres, we're not recommending mitigation. Mitigation for a forested wetland is typically at a 2-to-1 ratio. So if they were to impact an acre of wetland, they would have to replace it with 2 acres of wetland. In this situation, we'd be talking about 0.018 acres of wetland mitigation. And we've found that it just doesn't work when you have to mitigate for something that small. It leads to a lot of issues. It's excessively costly to the applicant, and this is a pretty minor impact to a pretty low-quality wetland. So that's why we've decided that mitigation, or we're recommending that mitigation not be required for the wetland impact. This is the northern portion of wetland B, this photo here. So as mentioned, it's a forested wetland. It is a linear ditch that kind of extends beyond just the banks of the ditch. It's largely dominated by buckthorn, common buckthorn, which is a highly invasive shrub. There are some ash trees and elm trees along the edge. This portion in the photo here is a little bit further north. This is what I would say is probably the nicer or higher quality portion of wetland B. It's dominated by sedges and native vegetation. As mentioned, there is a direct connection to the Murphy Drain here. We'll talk. So that's it for as far as wetland impacts go. There are natural feature setback impacts. So each wetland has a 25-foot natural feature setback that requires a variance if it's going to be impacted. So the applicant is proposing impacts to 4 wetlands in 5 locations, to wetlands A, B, 2 portions of wetland C, and wetland F up here. So in total, the 5 areas would constitute about 6,600 square feet, which is about 0.15 acres. The photos down here are kind of snapshots of what the habitat looks like surrounding these wetlands. It's pretty weedy. It's dominated by invasive buckthorn for the most part. There's some herbaceous weedy species, non-native grasses, goldenrods, pretty common species, raspberry, multiflora rose. There are a few trees that would be impacted, but nothing of major significance. So because it's about 0.15 acres of impact to the natural feature setback, we will be requiring mitigation for that. Mitigation varies from project to project, but for this project, they are proposing to provide invasive species control, which I took to mean buckthorn control, and they're proposing to plant and seed this feature right here. This is a proposed bioretention basin adjacent to wetland C. They're proposing to seed that with a native wetland seed mix. So essentially it could end up becoming a wetland. So as far as the site plan review comments go, I'm going to switch between this slide and the previous one. As I mentioned, this This is their latest iteration of the site plan. Initially, it was much different from the first time that I saw it in October. They had the building pretty much lying on top of Wetland C. They had a road crossing right through Wetland A. Wetland B, like I mentioned, is unavoidable, so that hasn't really changed much. But they also showed parking lot impacting Wetland G up here and a little bit of Wetland F. So there were some hurdles to get through with the applicant and his design team. And I do have to say, we went through a lot of meetings, and they went through a number of iterations, which I'm sure were not cheap. And they did their best to minimize and avoid the wetlands to the greatest extent possible. And from a wetlands perspective, I'm appreciative of that and the efforts they took to do that. So as I mentioned, they were talking about initially impacting wetlands A, B, C, and G. And what they did is they altered this driveway to avoid wetland A completely. They shifted the site east to avoid wetland C completely, and they reconfigured the parking lot several times to miss wetlands G and F up here. So during the site plan review process, kind of later in the game, once we determined that this iteration was pretty good in terms of minimizing and avoiding wetland impacts, our biggest concern was with their proposed retention basin, bioretention basin down here. And they had an outlet up here, both of which we were fearful was going to impact wetland C negatively. So wetland C is a forested wetland, and it's a vernal pool. Vernal pools are increasingly uncommon in Michigan, especially southeast Michigan. They provide critical habitat for amphibians and reptiles, particularly frogs and salamanders. Vernal pools in general have less protection from eagle because of because of how they are. They're generally isolated features, and they're generally small. So if they're not within 500 feet of a wetland, lake, stream, and if they're not larger than 5 acres, which not many of these vernal pools are, then they're not regulated by eagle. So again, this is critical habitat for some pretty important wildlife in our estimation. So with the bioretention basin initially shown as being lower than the adjacent wetland, and a catch basin up here with an invert elevation lower than the wetland, we were really concerned that it was going to basically de-water wetland C, which would essentially kill the functions and values that it provides, not only for stormwater and pollution control and groundwater recharge and everything else, but also for the wetlands, or for the amphibians and reptiles that need vernal pools in order to breed. So we met with them, and they essentially lowered the site, or raised the site rather. They they redesigned the bioretention basin so it would be higher than the adjacent grade of the wetland, and they raised the invert elevation of this catch basin so it would no longer de-water wetland. So two of our biggest concerns there were alleviated by the design team for that. So as mentioned, we are requiring mitigation for the natural feature setback impacts. The plan, again, is to plant the bioretention basin with native wetland seed and to provide invasive species control in the natural feature setbacks. One thing that we did require is that they provide this plan prior to beginning construction. So one other issue we had with the site plan towards the end of the review process was that their soil erosion and sediment control plan wasn't showing that it was protecting all the natural feature setbacks in wetland areas. And again, they made changes to the plans as we asked them to do, and so all the natural features, including the wetlands, are being protected now. So essentially the wetland impact area, wetland B, that linear ditch, is like we said, kind of a pretty low quality wetland feature. It doesn't provide much function or value. It's a man-made ditch. So, and the impact area is 0.009 acres. So this is a very minor impact to a fairly low quality wetland. So It's our opinion that the project is in the public interest, and because of the low impacts, and because it is in the project public interest, and because they've done a good job of minimizing and avoiding wetlands to the greatest extent possible, Nice Water Environmental is recommending that the Wetland Board approve this project from a wetlands perspective. And it should be noted that the applicant needs to deal with wetlands B and C with Eagle to determine if Eagle's going to regulate those. And if they do regulate wetlands B and C, the applicant is also going to need a permit from the state of Michigan. So that's about all I have. If anybody has any questions.
We'll bring it here. We'll
Okay.
get to that.
Sure.
Anybody on the commission have any questions? I have one.
Sure.
Is there a difference between, you show the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impacts, but only one is really a disruption where something's being built on it. The others is there a difference in impact and disruption, or I don't know what the word you want to use?
So these are for the natural feature setback. So I should have mentioned earlier that these wetland lines here, the interior line is the actual wetland. So where my cursor is now, the perimeter line is the natural features setback boundary. So these 5 impacts are impacting the natural features.
setback part.
The setback.
Okay, not
portion.
disruption. Okay,
The
that's
only-
what I didn't get.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The only wetland impact is right here to
Yeah.
wetland B.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, hold on. The applicant, do you have anything you want to say about wetlands? That's up there, I'm sorry. No, wait. The applicant first.
Yeah, my name is Reed Cooksey with Stonefield Engineering Design, here representing the applicant, Zach Sklar. My address is 555 South Old Woodward, Suite 12L, Birmingham, Michigan, 48009. Jeff did a great presentation here, really explaining kind of the process that we've been through. Again, we initially were impacting Wetland C entirely, and then work with him and the rest of the township staff pretty diligently on shifting it in order to maintain the health of Wetland C, when ensuring that not only that we were outside of the wetland itself, but also ensuring that the drainage area to Wetland C was going to be maintained, as well as raising the site, as it was mentioned, to not negatively impact and potentially dewater it from a subgrade perspective. So really do appreciate Jeff's time on that. The only other color I'd add is we have started the process with Eagle. We've submitted for our pre-application meeting and had a couple conversations there. Due to the weather, it makes it a little difficult to have these on-site meetings, to actually do a field investigation. We've sent over the report that Jeff provided to them, and they're reviewing that currently to try to make a determination on the status of each. But as Jeff said, we're working with them, and we're going to work with the township and do the proper mitigation and get all the proper permits in the end here. So with that, we're excited for to continue to work with you guys, and we're excited for this project. Happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Question, go ahead.
So that's good that you started the process with Eagle, but the question that I have is, if they, in Jeff's opinion, is they may not even seek to have jurisdiction over them due to whatever the reason, the size but if they do want to have jurisdiction over those wetlands, they're the ones that are not impacted, so I mean, what could possibly change?
Not much, just because the township has, standards, as it was mentioned, that are generally above and beyond what the state would require. They may require some additional detail in our final mitigation report, but, we'll work with both entities for that. Again, I think the mitigation that we're proposing right now is above what the state would require due to the quality of the minor wetland we're impacting. But obviously, if they require anything separate or anything different, we'll be sure to work with both the township staff and the state to get the required permits here.
Thank you.
If they do take jurisdiction over wetland B, it will require an Eagle permit to impact that, even with its small size.
Right, it might require a permit, but it wouldn't prevent the site plan or the proposal we're impacting the 25-foot environmental feature setback in the wetland that's being impacted in the driveway probably wouldn't even come under that jurisdiction. So they may require a permit, but I'm thinking they're not gonna twist the site plan around. I don't see
No.
any reason to.
No, if this was an avoidable wetland impact, they may make them come in from a different route or something, but this is, like I said, minor and unavoidable, so I don't see Eagle doing that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, now it's your turn. Here's the ground rules. Come up to the speaker, form a line so we don't have to wait for everybody to come up one at a time. Need your name, your address. You get 3 minutes. And please, again, I'm going to say, only about the wetlands. Forget about the site plan. We'll talk about that later. Only about wetlands. So I guess that's what we need to have. Name, address, and 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Julia Northcutt. I'm a property owner at 310 North Berkshire. Jeff, I'm curious, the nature of vernal pools, do they change throughout the year?
Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
So as I understand it, was evaluated in June, which is arguably one of the driest months in the state.
it was initially evaluated in June. It did have standing water in it at the time. When I was there, I evaluated ASTI's delineation in October. There's no standing water in it at that time.
I would be very curious as to your evaluation if you were to visit the site in November, March, or April, because it is closer to a pond than a pool or mere wetland.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe that this setback in the future itself would be expanded upon if it was taken into consideration at that time of year.
You mean the size of it?
Yes.
No, I don't think the size of the wetland would change. So we don't look at standing water when we delineate, and I don't want to speak for ASTI, but I'm familiar with their work, and we're all professional wetland scientists. We look at soils, we look at hydrology, and we look at vegetation. So every plant in Michigan has a wetness rating. So the wettest species, like cattails, are given a rating of obligate. The driest species would be considered an upland species. So when we delineate, when I delineate, I don't really even look at standing water. I use it as another measurement, but I'm looking at vegetation first. And ASTI, most wetland scientists do as well. So the wetland boundary is kind of where the wetland vegetation stops and the upland vegetation starts. There's always, a 5-foot difference between that, roughly. And it can change over time. But from 1 year to the next, based on rainfall, it's not gonna change. So even if it has standing water, but it's surrounded by upland vegetation, I wouldn't call that wetland. I wouldn't go by the water boundary. I'd go more by the vegetation boundary.
Okay, and my understanding is further that this is all based on gravel paving, which is, to the best of my knowledge, a variance that has not yet been approved. What impact do you feel that asphalt paving would have upon the existing plan?
Can you repeat that?
My
Okay.
understanding is that all of this is based on a gravel road surface,
You
whereas
mean
that's a
impacting
variation. Yes.
Wetland B?
So how do you feel that would change if it was actually in asphalt?
I don't know enough about that to answer that.
What about rainwater studies?
You mean previous?
Runoff. I mean, my property is one that would be flooding as a result of these changes, so I'm curious as to what studies and actual follow-through have been done as to the impact that the site itself and proposal itself will have on not just these wetlands, but my property.
I don't think I can answer
That's
that.
it.
I don't know.
Okay,
That's 3
thank
minutes.
you for your time.
Okay, I'm going to just say one thing I forgot to say, and it's evident. Make your statement, ask a question for sure. We're going to record those questions, and then we will come back and answer them after the discussion. Otherwise, it'll take forever to get through this. So from now on, just make your statement, ask any questions you have, and you or somebody will answer them after the open public comments. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, we're going to do it right now.
Will
Yeah.
it all be passed out,
If we can get it.
just like everybody else was notified for everything that's going on? Just a rhetorical question. All right, good evening. My name is Brett Northcutt. I live at 310 North Berkshire. Jeff, thank you for your time. Can you quantify how many iterations have been made with the developer so far?
That will be answered, we'll get that answer right after you finish your comments and questions.
Okay. Can you clarify what is meant by this development is in the best interest of the public, which was shared in your slides?
Well, I didn't say it was in the best
Okay,
interest of.
again,
Okay,
we're
so-
going to answer those questions.
Yep.
One after the other.
My comment is, I don't know how somebody who's potentially not a resident at all would understand how it is in the best interest of people who are living in houses abutting this property, in the neighborhood and in the township. So I believe that part of the presentation should be removed. What's really interesting so far with this presentation tonight is I'm hearing that there's been a significant amount of work with the township and the environmental consultants. There's been work with Eagle, but there has been absolutely zero work with any residents in the township, with any homeowners who are abutting this property, with any neighbors in this neighborhood. I find it really, really interesting. I asked myself the question, why would somebody who's spending millions of dollars not talk to anybody who's actually going to be impacted by this? And all I can keep coming back to is that they know nobody would want this in a million years, not in our neighborhood, not in our backyard, and not in our township. It is absurd that we keep hearing about how many people have been worked with, except for the people that is going to impact the most. You might say that I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, I'm disappointed. I'm going to save the rest of my comments for the next part of this.
Okay.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Kaluzniak. I live at 216 North Berkshire, a lot of times referred to as the Red House. I want to shift the conversation away from parcels, permits, site plans for just a minute and back to what actually lives in the wetlands, because the wetlands aren't empty space. They're home. The people that rely on them don't get to vote tonight. They don't get to be heard. Every morning there's a buck, big one, cuts through the tree line near the wetlands, big body, slow steps, doesn't rush unless he's pushed. Watch him every morning. We call him Ironhead. He beds down near the edge of the wetlands, moves at first light, and uses the corridor as his highway. Same path, same pattern, year after year. That's not random. That's habit. There's also a group of turkeys that work the higher ground just off the wetlands. It's Big Tom. He's a 3-year-old. He's got a 12-inch beard, big spurs. I call him Boss Tom. He struts that edge every spring, and he walks like he owns the place, because in a way he does. Turkeys don't stay where they feel pressured. They move when habitat gets noisy, lit up, or disrupted. Lose the quiet, you'll lose the turkeys. And then there's the ducks. I love the ducks. My kids have named the ducks. We have a pair that returns every season. The residents know them by sight. We call them Fred and Ethel. Sometimes they're in D.C. too, by the way, when I'm there. They settle into the same pockets of water, the same reeds, the same shelters from wind and predators. They come back because it works, because it's stable, because it's protected, because it hasn't been pushed out by human activity yet. Now this is what's at stake, not an abstract environmental impact, not a study, real wildlife, real movement patterns, real dependency on exact lands. The deer, they don't get to speak here tonight. The turkeys, they don't file objections. The ducks, they don't get public comment. But they're all part of the project, and I have heard none of that addressed tonight. We are here temporarily. The wetlands are here before us. The wetlands depend on, and the wildlife depends on them, and they will be here after us. And if protected, they're still here for a long time. My recommendation, protect the habitat, protect the wetlands, protect the life that's already rooted there. I vote, I pay taxes. My recommendation is vote this down. It's the wrong thing for our community.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Robert Mitchell. Along with my family, Aretha, Zeta, we own Fremont Street. My family has been there 70 years. Nobody's going to be impacted by this worse than me, okay? But I support this. I have, this whole area has been my playground for 61 years. Listen, it's time for something to happen down there. It's time. Listen, don't know, formerly a police officer and fireman, nobody keeps the vagrants out of there but me. Nobody gets the trash up from the illegal dumping but me. And I've been doing that for over 40 years myself. My father and my Uncle Dan did that for the 30 years before I did it, okay? Listen, this could potentially be the best thing that happened for this area. Something needs to happen. It's gonna be good for the township, okay? But I've got two things I wanna mention.
I
One-
hope they deal with the wetlands.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Well, wetlands B, because I've been in communication with Mr. Sklar, his architect. Wetlands B, if it is not handled properly, it will flood Fremont, at least a third of it. Because the ditches come down, and you called it a Murphy drain?
The Murphy Drain.
That Murphy drain, if that is, and I do it, I've been doing it for the last 40 years, I have to clean that out so it can get to that southern storm drain. So it's not a ditch. It's a very important ditch, okay? Especially this season, okay? Because it will flood that third of that street, okay? And that's the only drain available for that street, okay? And I'd like to submit a letter from my attorney. You guys probably have a copy of it?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. For the record.
We do, we have it on record, thank you.
Okay, great. But nobody will be impacted more than me. I think it's a great idea. Something needs to happen down there. And I'm gonna miss, I've been feeding the deer for all my life. I have names for them too, but something needs to happen over there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Greg Utuma, 127 South Berkshire. And I was here last week to talk a little bit, and I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Sklar earlier today, and I actually spoke with him and asked permission to explain part of our conversation to the board, because I think it is important to reiterate the conversation we're having. He did give me that permission. If any time I misrepresent anything, please let me know. I was told in no uncertain terms that I was supposed to liaison with the township for any revisions to anything, that the township is acting as liaison, specifically Ms. Bibby and Jeff on the wetlands. I was specifically told that the township is who placed it 300 feet south of a previous location to put it right next to John Schaefer's address and the north cut. So I guess that is a question I'd like to ask you, is if you're requiring it to be 300 feet south from a previous location.
Again, we'll answer the question.
Understood, but that's my stated question.
Okay.
Another question I would have is, in your wetlands delineation and your explanation, which was excellent, if I'm correct on the numbers, G and H are not regulated by Eagle, would only be regulated by the township. And if you're requiring the entire development to move south 300 feet or an entire football field to literally butt by our neighbors, are we choosing a unregulated wetland to uninterrupt, in return to erupt the lives of our neighbors on Berkshire? And again, I understand you don't have to answer that now, but that is my question, is through the 7 iterations that I was told that cost thousands of dollars, at what point did we consider the property on Berkshire? At what point did we consider, again, I don't know enough about wetlands to comment on what's necessary or not. I think it's all important, right? But at some point, the livelihood of the residents has to take over for an unregulated wetland that, as you said, is dry and full of invasive species, if I'm quoting you correct. I didn't see anywhere in there did you address how the neighbors are going to be affected by this development. And most importantly, and if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sklar, I was told that you guys told him he had to move it 300 feet south, and he would love to move it 300 feet north, which would be 300 feet further away from our property lines. That having been said, that being told to me today, me conveying that to members of the township, and me being here today, I would ask that you hold this vote. Because if I'm being told by a developer that the wetlands development, the wetlands board is making it so that our property line is eternally affected by a development that could move 300 feet, but for your assent, I think this should be tabled until that is fully vetted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who'd like to speak, if you would form a line, we can move a little quicker.
Chris Northcross, 168 Astorwood, Pontiac, Michigan. I'm just trying to connect the dots. I know there are some assumptions. I think one person already alluded to the assumption of gravel roads, gravel pavement. Question is, as we make these different changes, what happens to the folks that are downstream of that flow? Will we be seeing some type of flooding, increased flooding? I think that was already one question along what used to be First Street. Does that also mean that we see some other problems elsewhere?
Thank you very much.
I was hoping somebody else would ask this question. I'm Lynn Wethy. I live at 125 North Berkshire. Looking at the diagram, the vernal pond that's there, will it not be totally surrounded by pavement and parking?
Yes.
And how will that? That's why I was hoping somebody would ask this question.
Direct him to the board, please. He's our consultant.
How?
We'll answer the question.
Well, but he's the. That's my question, I guess.
Okay.
What the lifeline of that vernal pond, that's an important water, how is that impacted being totally surrounded by pavement?
We'll get you the answer,
Thank you.
I hope. All right, I don't see anybody else running up, so I'm going to close the public comment for this. Again, we'll be talking about more. You'll have more opportunities. Questions that were raised. The first gentleman asked, so you have them, I think you have them? One at a time, and see if we can answer. If not, we'll get back to them with an answer. But I'm sure we can get an answer just right now. And you can read them? Oh, yeah, you go ahead, you do it.
Okay, so there was a question about the asphalt versus gravel driveway and parking lots. There was a question about rainwater on runoff.
Well, let's do one at a time. Sure. One at a time.
Question at a time.
Yeah, just go ahead. Start with the first question.
The difference between the asphalt versus gravel driveway and parking lot.
Okay?
I don't have much to comment on that.
As it pertains to the wetlands. remember.
Right. I'm not an engineer. I'm tasked with looking at the wetlands. So, generally gravel is more pervious than asphalt. So, but I don't know if they looked at an asphalt versus gravel versus pervious pavements. I don't know. So.
And there were various questions about,
Well, they may have. I wasn't sure. Sure.
Yeah, we were answering questions, sure you
Yeah,
are.
yeah, absolutely.
You know
So,
the answer.
yeah, so regarding the hydrology of it all, one of the items that we presented was that we're not changing the overall drainage area to the wetland, which would have the dictating calculation for the amount of volume going there. Asphalt versus gravel would really just change our time of concentration, and the drainage area is so large that the time of concentration would be very minimally impacted, as well as most of the rain runoff in that area is going to the bioretention first, which will allow it to have a chance to infiltrate into the ground before discharging into the wetland itself at a standard release rate. So no, there should not be any changes regarding the material between asphalt and gravel. The gravel really is more for the aesthetic, more natural look that we're going for here, as opposed to a asphalt field. And it's one of the variances we're seeking, and we'll get to that.
Next one.
questions related to rainwater runoff affecting neighboring properties.
again, all right, go ahead, but that's not, all right, go ahead.
Yeah,
It's not wetlands.
similar answer. We're maintaining the existing drainage patterns on the site to the different wetlands, especially wetland C, which is the wetland of concern here with health. So no, there will not be any impacts to downstream properties, as it was determined that wetland C and wetland B, the two wetlands that are going to be the most impacted with the development here, connect directly to the Murphy Drain, which is a 60-inch drain 20 feet underground.
Well, no, because he's the one that, I know, but he has the answer, no. All right,
I'm actually just
running
the
this
engineer,
meeting.
I'm not the developer.
He's got an
so-
answer, we want to hear it. If you don't like the answer, okay, we'll get more on the drainage runoffs when we talk about the site with the buildings and the parking lot and all that other thing later. We're looking at just the wetlands.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question.
There was a discussion about one of the wetlands ponds and how that would be impacted by the developments. I believe it was the vernal wetlands.
Wetland C,
Right.
that was your question, I believe, ma'am?
Yes.
Your question about wetland C and the vernal feature?
I believe that was that it's totally surrounded by the development itself and surrounded by pavement or gravel or whatever. What's that lifeline of that pond that's an important pond?
Well, I don't know if it'll change too much because, as he explained, the drainage, the surrounding drainage of it, which we call a mini watershed, is not changing. The topography of the site isn't changing too much. So all the water is being funneled into a bioretention basin prior to being discharged into wetland C, where most of it will infiltrate through the ground system naturally over time.
Well, no more questions. Please. Question, next question from you.
So that question
They don't know. That's the answer to everything, they don't know.
There are questions about processes on the township side when it came to iterations and reviews with the consultants, developer.
Go ahead.
I can speak to this. I've been at the township for 13 years, and never, the township does have the right and authority to meet with property owners, whether it's a commercial application, whether it's a private property. Frequently, we oftentimes meet with developers prior to them making a site plan application. It's called a pre-application meeting. Every time we've ever met with a developer, we've always encouraged that developer or property owner to please meet with the adjacent neighbors.
No comments, please.
I'm sorry that you don't, okay.
Sure you did.
So I just want to say that there has been, I believe there was 2 reiterations that we saw. And by no means did the township say you need to locate the building here. Our response is going to be in regards to what's on site, and if the applicant was directed to relocate a building based on natural features or wetlands, that's certainly not uncommon. We like to always encourage an applicant to avoid natural features impacts in times that they can. So if the applicant had so chosen to relocate the building as to not impact significant wetlands, those are decisions that are made on behalf of his team and that are then culminated into a site plan application. Once a site plan application is submitted to building in our planning, building, and ordinance department, that is a public record. It's a public information. Again, that's our process. I'm sharing with you what I experienced. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, next question.
There was a question from an individual from 127 South Berkshire about when was the Berkshire property considered when it came to the 300-foot setback, if I'm rephrasing properly.
Andrea, you want to answer that one?
So again, as part of the public process in accordance with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, which what we do in the planning world is delegated, and we do have responsibilities and obligation to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. As part of that requirement, prior to having a public hearing, which is the purpose of a public hearing, is for the board to be able to take public input, hear from the applicant, and there could very well be reiterations or changes based on public input. That is why the planning process actually exists, is that you can have the opportunity to have a public hearing. And according to Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, you're required to send proper notification to every property owner within 300 feet from the outermost point of every parcel involved. The townships, over the years I've been here, it's always been 500 feet. They go above and beyond that legal requirement. So that is the township's practice. Notices were mailed out to everyone within 500 feet of the subject parcels in accordance with state law.
Okay. Next.
Next question I have is, what about the project is in the best interest of the community?
Well, that's, again, relating to the wetlands only, not the lighting or the site arrangement, just the wetlands.
Said it on the slide. Said it on the slide.
Um,
It's a fair question.
Okay, yeah, if it's wetlands, it would be,
Sure,
you
that's,
bet.
that's something we look at when we're determining whether or not to recommend approval of it. We look at to see if the applicant has minimized and avoided wetlands, first and foremost. We look to see if it's in the public interest, which this project is. I realize that many, and by the way, I have no opinion whatsoever. I am an individual consultant. I don't live in Bloomfield Township. I'm here to look at the wetlands. So I have no opinion if this project goes through or not. So, but in terms of the, you know, we're not looking for public support necessarily. We're looking as if this has public interest, and it certainly does.
No.
It's not really an opinion. It's not something similar to a landmine or a sludge field or a mulch facility, composting facility, something like that. This isn't something that is naturally detrimental to the environment. So they've shown that they've reduced the impacts and minimized the impacts to the greatest extent possible, which we asked them to do. And that's why we, Nice Wander Environmental, is recommending approval.
Whose interest is it in?
No questions. No questions from the audience.
My time was cut short.
No, it wasn't.
One
You
more
got
question.
full 3 minutes.
He spoke during most.
I know, that was, you asked him questions and he answered them. And you have to, next question, please.
The last one pertains to addressing animal life protection.
Okay.
What about it?
How the wetlands are home to any creatures.
They are. I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot of wildlife on the property. I saw the deer, the turkey. I saw a fox. I saw a coyote scat. There's reptiles and amphibians that are on site. But again, in dealing with the wetlands only, they're avoiding all but 0.009 acres of wetland on the property. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, were there any more questions? Okay, I have, something came up that I wanted to ask. And I'm not, again, only pertaining to wetlands, not the rest of it. With regard to wetlands, I'd like to know if the applicant met with, it was said that you never met with them at all. With regard to wetlands, did you meet with any of the homeowners and discuss the wetlands?
Me?
I'm asking him, not you.
The applicant.
I'm just the engineer. I did not meet with any of the
Is there anybody
residents.
here from your group that can answer that question?
Yes or no?
We conducted a neighborhood, again, Jeff Clack, Krieger Clad Architects, 400 East Lincoln, Royal Oak. We did conduct a neighborhood meeting. It's in my slide presentation, the exact date. I don't have it handy on me, but we did conduct a neighborhood meeting.
No. Okay, the question was, did you meet with homeowners with regard to the wetlands?
Again, the neighbors were notified to the township. We received addresses. We then sent out postcards to those neighbors affected by the project. We conducted a Zoom call to meet with the residents to discuss this. That is what we did.
Okay.
We discussed how we impacted the wetlands, these various things. So yes, it was more about the project holistically versus just a wetland discussion.
Okay, well, that's what we're talking about right now.
So-
Okay, so, but you contacted them, but you didn't necessarily say that you actually sat down with the group, homeowners association, and have a discussion. Is that correct?
This was 2
Weeks-
weeks ago.
Boys, please. Let him answer the question that I asked.
Sorry, I did not disrupt you. 1 second, please. We discussed the project in general. We introduced the project, like we have tonight. We had a slideshow, a presentation, where we rolled out what we were doing, how we were impacting the site, and what we did, what the goals are for the project, what it is, and what we're doing. Simply, that's all it was, an introduction to the project. We fielded questions. We did our best to answer them. There's concerns, but again, with the wetlands, we just simply discussed how our project was going to nestle and work around those in a careful way in conjunction with our wetlands expert and the township.
If you folks have any other comment about that part of it when it comes to the site plan, again, you can bring that up again. Yes. I have one more, but go ahead.
Approximately how many residents were on this Zoom call regarding the wetlands part?
I don't know offhand.
Approximately. More than 5?
15, 20, give or
Okay.
take.
There was 14.
Okay, well, that's pretty close. Okay, the other question that I had, and maybe Andrea, maybe you can answer this one, I'm not sure. The comment was made that we, the township, forced the project to be moved south so that it wouldn't impact the wetlands. Can you elaborate on that? Did we actually tell them to move it, or was that a choice that they made?
It was a decision that was made by the developer based on the wetlands that were on site, based on conversations that were had between environmental engineering services, based on their review internally, based on Niswander's review of what was on site. The applicant's intention to relocate that was to avoid impacts to wetlands. That's all I can speak of. There was, that's what I can speak to. That's what I'm aware of. That's the conversation I had.
Okay, so what you're saying is.
But we didn't say, no, you have to put
didn't
that.
say, move it, or we're not even gonna consider it. Move it there. You just said it's your.
He could have kept it there, but it also would have probably resulted in a lot more wetland. And the other concern was the fact that that was the vernal pool, which was the most highly sensitive. So I would think it would be the best interest of the township and the board to have the planning staff want developers to consider thoughtfully where they're gonna locate a building as to not impact natural features.
But we didn't force them. Okay, got it. Okay, now, coming back to we're done with the public comment for this. You'll have another opportunity. It doesn't matter. No. Public comment is over. Next. What question was that?
I asked 2 questions. One, I just got an answer from Ms. Big, which I appreciate. Mr. Sklar's here. You don't need his hired hands. He's here. He can answer questions about the phone call he was on. We had a 20-minute conversation on that phone call. Wetlands was not discussed. In fact, my entire neighborhood will confirm that. Mr. Sklar will confirm that. Wetlands were not discussed. The first time I heard about wetlands was at 4:10 p.m.
So that answers my question then.
Well, it
Thank you.
does, but unfortunately, you didn't get a proper answer, and it's a recorded phone call. So the Zoom was recorded. Second, and I do think this is important, is that I asked very specifically, I was told by Mr. Sklar that our liaisons for wetlands was Ms. Bibby and Jeff. I need to know if that's correct.
Okay, is that correct?
I represent Bloomfield Township in the Planning, Building, and Ordinance Department. Just to clarify what my roles and responsibilities and duties are to the residents. I follow the zoning code and I work with developers on projects that they're considering developing. I have a legal responsibility. Property owners have the legal right to pursue development on their private property, okay? My role then as the planner is to look at our ordinance that we have on the books. I don't rewrite the ordinances. I look at the ordinances that we have on book, and then I will present to the Planning Commission and the public how it does or does not comply with our ordinances. That is my role and responsibility. If that makes me the liaison, I guess, but I'm not the end-all, be-all. I am a cog in the wheel. But no, I wouldn't say that I'm a liaison to foster or develop this project. I work with internal staff of the township. I work with our consultants to culminate their reviews, have their reviews come in, and then we respond to those reviews in a manner that does or does not comply with our ordinances, and then we present it to you in how it does or does not comply. I think I'm trying to make a very clear expectation of what my role is, because this is not emotional for me either. I do not have any skin in the game, if you will. I'm here to operate on behalf of the township to present you what has been presented to my department.
But you're the contact then, you maybe, and you, Jeff, you're the contact from the public or the developer. You're the contact at the township for the people that someone can talk to and contact.
100%.
Okay, so liaison maybe is the
100% when it
wrong
comes.
word.
Okay.
Contact.
Correct, 100%. I am the person that if you have a question about a land use development coming to the township, you contact our department. That is absolutely correct.
That's not
Now-
my question. I just want to be clear.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, it's very important. I was told at 4:10 PM that all of this done, and that I'm supposed to contact these two people to, and I quote, "get me the right to move my property back 300 feet north." Because I was told they had to move it by our property line because of the wetlands. Again, Zach.
Well, I just asked her that, and she said you weren't required to
Am I
that.
misquoting you?
Okay, you know what?
This is not
I'm cutting it off right now. I'm cutting it off. We're coming back to the commission. Anybody here have any comments? Anything? I don't. I've asked my questions. I got what I need. All right, so what's your pleasure? What do you want to do? Well, our choices are we have three choices. We can say, we don't want to continue it. We can say we want to approve it and send it up to the Board of Trustees. Or if we want to, we can table it and we can either get more information or pursue other avenues or whatever. Those are our three choices.
So, I mean, we're dealing with just the wetland.
Just the wetlands, had
component
nothing to
of
do
this
with the project, just that one little piece. Okay,
It's
yes, just the wetlands.
component.
Just the
We need to make
wetlands.
that very clear.
Sorry? Was it?
I think it's important to make that very clear.
Oh, yeah.
We're contemplating the impact on the wetlands on this property. And, according to our township, consultant, it's been minimized, the wetland impact has been minimized.
Just the wetlands?
Just the wetland.
Right.
Yeah,
Nothing to do with the rest of the
Nothing
project.
beyond that,
Okay, so,
That a motion?
no. I'll wait
Okay.
for you to do it.
I agree with you. I think it's minimal impact on the wetlands and on that property. And looking at the wetlands itself as far as what's presented to us, I would recommend that we give approval for the permit just for the wetlands, which is separate from the site plan, based on the considerations that have been presented.
Support.
moved, supported, any comment on that motion? All right, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so just that portion of it, just that wetlands portion, we approve going to the Board of Trustees to get a permit for that. Okay, next item on the agenda is the text amendment to a zoning ordinance for banquet halls. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, I closed the wetland, yeah. Look, wetlands is closed. Right, I'll just close that portion, and now we'll move on. Now we'll open up, excuse me, sorry about that. We'll open up the Planning Commission meeting. And again, sorry, we got to go back to the meeting. Again, we have a quorum, and we have minutes from the last meeting. Any comments? There's one that I had, Andrea's name was not on
They
the,
need to reflect my name on it.
right. We have, okay,
So
we
with
got that?
change, we got it.
As an absent, okay, very good. So any other, all right,
With that addition, correction, and make a motion that we approve.
Second.
moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, here we go again with public comment. Now we're talking about public comment only on the text amendment for the zoning, no, excuse me. Sorry, I'm sorry. Now it's public comment in the Planning Commission for anything other than what's on the agenda. My mistake. I apologize. So if you have something that's not on the agenda you want to talk about that deals with planning,
That's right.
you can come up. All right. I'm sorry?
I'm waiting for.
For the other, yeah, okay, well, then we're gonna have the presentation. Okay, other than what's on the agenda.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Charles Renfro. I live at 243 Crestwood in Pontiac. And I was curious as how close is that proposed project to Pontiac line? I know there's a street called Astorwood that's undeveloped, and my property butts up against that.
Okay, well, we'll answer that question when we get to the site plan and all that. Again, if it's, I want to hear any public comments for something that's not on the agenda. All right, I don't see anybody coming to the podium, so we'll move on. The first item then on our agenda is the text amendment to the zoning ordinance for banquet halls in the Research Park and B3 zoning districts. Andrea.
Hi, good evening. I am here to present to the Planning Commission a proposal for a text amendment to our current Research Park District. Highlighted on your screen here, you can see where our Research Park District is located. It is north of Square Lake Road, and it is highlighted in that shade of purple, which is blown up there to your left-hand side. So anytime we look at a text amendment to our ordinance, we want to look at what provisions we take a look at our current ordinance, as well as take a consideration of what the potential impact would be for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. Interesting enough, within our zoning ordinance, we actually have criteria under 42-4.29 as it relates to banquet halls. However, within our zoning ordinance itself, the only zoning classification, if you will, in which a banquet hall is noted to be permitted as a special land use is actually within our B4 classification. B4 is a zoning classification that essentially covers all of Telegraph Road. It doesn't identify particular parcels. It just it indicates that along the Telegraph Road corridor would be a suitable location for that type of use. Other than that, there's no other zoning districts that have banquet halls specifically called out as a use. So what we did when this was first brought to our attention is we reached out to Giffords Webster, who is our planning consultant, and they took a look at our zoning ordinance. And one thing that we're going to look at when we look at any text amendment or zoning amendment is what is the current use of that district currently. And by introducing this new use, in this instance, the suggested new use under the special land use category on the right-hand side would be a banquet facility. Looking at the current uses that are already proposed, and these have been within our zoning ordinance, again, as long as, for many, many years of these uses. So these are not newly introduced uses allowed in Research Park. They may not have come into fruition, or maybe there's not a development under these uses, but just pointing out that currently on your screen is the way that our Research Park District reads. So within the Research Park District, under special land use classification, and just so the members of the public and the board understands the difference between the left-hand side, which is permitted by right, there is the right-hand category, which is a special land use. Special land uses require, are uses that have like a higher level of review and are categorized to be a little bit more sensitive, if you will, to the adjoining neighbors. So that's why we would recommend that if the board were to consider adopting banquet halls as a use within Research Park, that it would be under that category of a special land use. That gives the board the ability to add on specific conditions related to that use. So just pointing out that the current uses already within the special land use. So again, these may not currently occur, but these are uses that would be permitted if a property became available, if a developer was interested and owned a property and wanted to develop, they would be able to consider number one, it's a restaurant or other places serving food or beverage, except those having the character of an open front or drive-in, which would be kind of like what's the drive-through, Sonic. That's what we'd consider an open-ended restaurant. So already within the special land use category, the research park would allow for a restaurant. I think we're all familiar with what a restaurant is. Oftentimes, we have them throughout the township. I think we all know what a restaurant is. A new car sales agency, a fully enclosed industrial operation, a medical office, therapy or health facility. And the next one is really the one that, in the recommendation for, or the review by Giffords Webster, which everybody has a copy within their packet, it has the closest relation to the use of a banquet hall in the sense where it says, under a special land use within Research Park, it would be recreational uses, including but not limited to sports facilities, clubs, recreational and community center buildings, and dance and exercise studios. So those are, in our research, in looking at the existing uses permitted, in Giffords Webster professional opinion, they feel that a banquet hall, in terms of use, impact, possible hours of operation, things like that, would be similar to some of the uses that are, again, this is a special land use in which the reason they're a special land use is because there'll be careful consideration and possibly conditions that could be placed on this by the Township Board and Planning Commission, okay? So those are uses that are currently permitted, and in our review, Research Park, as I stated, currently in that area, we do have, it actually has become quite a, there's lots of uses up there that are not your 9 to 5 office uses. Very recently, there was an indoor pickleball facility that was approved. There's also the Detroit Skate Club and the Bloomfield Tennis. Those are sports facilities that occur. And we also have, there's other dance halls, there's a dog daycare in that area. And so we do have a group of uses that currently exist within the Research Park District. We also do have the B3 general business classification, which the consideration or mentioned in the Giffords Webster memo would be that whether or not the Planning Commission was so inclined to also consider that a banquet hall would be appropriate within the B3. But most of the discussion, as you know, up until now has been the impact of that Research Park District specifically. So with that, I just want to state again that any application that we would receive for a banquet hall would still have to adhere to the criteria that is listed currently within our ordinance. This is not new language. And in regards to banquet halls particularly, there is a list of criteria that would be and is considered as part of the special land use review. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a rather quick overview, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have and hear from the public.
From the commission now.
Any questions from the commission? Correct.
Anybody have anything?
Just an opinion. I would be willing to support a text amendment because I actually have some properties, I'm not involved in this property that was subject to the discussion of the wetlands, but I do have property in the research park. I know the many uses that are there, and I think it would be a good idea to adopt this text amendment to allow the banquet use. At this point in time, I probably wouldn't support having that use in the B3. Maybe after we see how it works in Research Park District, we might want to consider the B3 later. That's just my opinion. The other thing is, I don't want to look at one single proposal that we're going to look at maybe after this one.
Sure.
I want to think about the designation in general, and I have been paying attention, and there's some new entities, not in our community, obviously, because we don't have the ability yet, where they have banquet halls, but they're of a smaller scale. And I think, and this is again my opinion, I don't know what my other planning commission members agree or not, but I think that there should be a minimum size involved because I personally wouldn't want to see multiple banquet halls of a smaller size. I'd rather see something that's more meaningful, and they can staff it with a proper size kitchen and run it. I just think it needs to be run as a larger scale business, so I would like to propose that if we make this text amendment, that we have a minimum amount of square footage that would be required. And I don't know exactly what that is. I don't even know the square footage. I'm sure I could look it up of what they're proposing, but I don't want to think about one project.
Of
We don't want to
course.
come back 5 years from now and we
Sure.
have 6 banquet halls that are
Yes.
1,200 square feet because somebody that was, successful in cooking in their basement decided, I don't think that's in the best interest of the township.
I agree. And I thank you for that, because you're absolutely right. Anytime you're looking at a zoning ordinance amendment, you're looking and should be thinking about the potential impact to that entire district. And I guess I will be curious to hear from the other board members regarding size.
Okay, but that's my opinion.
I have a question. According to this, it's one of the special land use, one of the permitted uses. Of course, it's under special land use. It needs a special land use permit. Restaurants. Now, that would mean that they would have to abide by all the other requirements of a restaurant: hours of operation, permits for outdoor dining, anything that other restaurants. So, if someone wanted to do this, they'd have to adhere to all those other things. Is that correct?
Correct. Our
Okay.
ordinance still has requirements in place that each site plan has to adhere to a variety of site standards.
Okay, so then it looks to me, it looks to me like whatever would be done, unless I'm missing something, whatever would be done at a banquet facility, the function, not the name, the function, whatever's done, is already listed in here as a permitted use under special land use. In other words, there's got to be, get permits it's not by right, they have to get permits for it.
Well, every single.
Dining, music.
Every single
Alcohol.
every single list of use here would require a public hearing for the planning commission and ultimately the township board. That's the way the township's ordinance is created.
Anything done at a banquet hall not fall into one of these categories? I don't know.
If you're asking me my professional opinion
Yeah.
based on the land use that's being proposed, I would say that it falls in line with some of the existing uses, and the hours and impacts could be similar to a community center building or things like that. So I do think that there is a nexus between the existing language and the proposed use.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want to just add a word to govern what a banquet hall is, but it's already in here without having a name for it.
But yeah, of course.
That is
but-
categorically incorrect.
No, it's not.
I object to the fact that you're trying to do that.
Okay, I'm going to say it one more
Clear it
time.
out.
I have a police officer back here. If you disrupt the meeting, I'm going to ask him to ask you to leave. You have an opportunity to say what you want under comments. I've asked a question, I'd like to get an answer. That's all. Okay?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So you're asking me if the actual use and function of a restaurant could be similar to that of a banquet hall. I would say yes. However, we all know that a banquet hall facility at the end of the day could potentially have different uses, times. They may have a singular, people arriving at the same time, leaving. So there's probably some differences. Yes,
All right.
in all fairness, which is why we're asking to have this amended appropriately and be called what it is, which is a banquet hall.
That's what I wanted to get the answer to. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then now we're going to open it up again to public comment on the language of this. Again, name and address, 3 minutes. Questions will be answered after we finish, just like we did before.
Have them speak to the board.
And
Yeah.
speak to us,
Speak to the
please.
board.
Speak to us, not the audience, speak to us.
Jeff, do the time.
What?
It's up there already.
Tom, the timer. Okay, hold on 1 second. I want to get that timer up.
Just- Might want to remind him. Jeff. Mr. Chair.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Please.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Martone. I'm an attorney at law, and I stand here representing Brett and Julia Northcutt, who are owners and residents on Berkshire Drive. For purposes of the public record, I'm going to adopt and incorporate the correspondences written by my colleague Stefan Bagney that were tendered to the commission and should be reviewed, including the discussion regarding some of the procedural concerns regarding the notice and the manner in which these are going forward. I intend to address predominantly the issue with respect to proposed text amendment, but to respond to a point raised by Member Atto, I do agree that these types of decisions should be bifurcated, that this text amendment really is, the genesis is because of a specific use instance, and that the decision of the township should review this in a vacuum, whether or not it should even permit this sort of amendment to its zoning, not with respect to whether it would make sense and whether this change to the zoning would then allow this special use permit to then occur. This proposal, though, is incongruous with the master plan. The township has, and in considering this proposal, it has largely disregarded and distorted the master plan. If you look at the master plan, it puts a premier emphasis on the residential component and nature of Bloomfield Township. In fact, in the preamble, it talks about that the desire of the master plan is to be a premier residential community, and it closes that it is to be a desirable community in which to live. Placing a banquet hall, or permitting for banquet halls of this nature to be placed 80 feet from the residential rear line of these homes is anything but consistent with preserving a community in which it's desirable and proper to live in. The research tech park intended use is for community, research, technical, office, service, training uses, and related facilities. Now, while there may be some contemplated other uses, that's the predominant intent. If you want to amend the master plan to describe different uses, that's what the proper process should be. It shouldn't be to amend the zoning ordinance in this manner. Restaurants in the contemplated uses are auxiliary and would support those office uses. It is not a banquet hall that contemplates serving up to 1,000 people. And I will address this when it comes to the special use. But the 1,000 people exiting at 1 a.m. in the morning, 1,000 people that have attended a venue that largely and very well may have an open bar, that are intoxicated, that are making noise. None of the sound mitigation, light mitigation, or even safety concerns or processes that are addressed in the application would adequately and guarantee that this wouldn't have an adverse impact on the residents in that area. The Giffords-Webster report speaks in conclusory statements. It doesn't actually do the analysis. It states there's no adverse impact on the value of the homes. It doesn't show that. And I think it's a far stretch to imagine that a venue of this size and magnitude, this close to residences, wouldn't have some adverse impact on the property values. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Again, Brett Northcutt, 310 North Berkshire. If you haven't guessed, I'm strongly opposed to the proposed development at 350 Fremont. I'm strongly opposed to any and all variances of the proposed development of 350 Fremont Street. And I'm strongly opposed to any text changes to the zoning ordinance to allow for banquet halls and RP zoning. Again, earlier I mentioned I'm frustrated, we're irritated, I'm disappointed. Those are adjectives and nouns that I could use to describe this development, but let's hear from the developer himself. Specific verbiage. Recently, in Cranes, it's an event venue in the woods, not a banquet hall in the woods. Our Detroit, 650 seats available, space for 1,000 strolling guests. Oakland County's premier large-scale event space, didn't say large-scale banquet hall. We'll have 2 floors, including a sunken amphitheater and indoor-outdoor transitional space. Yet to see any indoor-outdoor transitional space in any banquet hall I've been to. In D Business on the website, 30,000 square foot venue large enough to host notable events. A jewel box for Bloomfield Township with reach far beyond its borders. I think from what you've seen tonight, it definitely is going to reach beyond its borders. It's going to reach every single neighbor, homeowner, and resident within probably 3/4 of a mile. I don't think, though, that's what they meant by this, but that's actually what's going to happen. There isn't much in our backyards to accommodate 600 to 700 people for a sit-down dinner outside of a hotel ballroom. Yeah, you're frickin' right. But you know what's going to happen? 600, 700 people are actually going to be in my backyard, Julia's backyard, Kim and John's backyard. That is not what Bloomfield Township stands for. In the January 7th design meeting, Mr. Sklar stated the amphitheater is going to be sick. And I agree. But for me, sick stands for the fact that it is going to be a significant safety risk, not just to my 4 kids in my house that are less than 100 yards from 1,000 drunk people, but for the entire neighborhood. How on earth do we expect anybody at this event center to corral 1,000 people in the dark on 31 acres? It's absurd to assume that that will ever be able to happen. It's going to negatively impact our home value, and there's zero analysis been done to refute that. Simply a statement saying no home values will be impacted. Would you like to put this behind your $1.5, $2 million home? Probably not. But beyond all this, it is extremely frustrating how quickly this is all moving. We found out just over 3 weeks ago. Again, as I said earlier, nobody has reached out. Nobody's trying to work with us. This needs to stop today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Van Hoff at 330 North Berkshire. So I would be very close to this proposed event space, and speaking specifically about this zoning proposal that's on the table now. I would ask that the township must consider first, of course, the master plan. And it's listed right in our vision statement that Bloomfield is a premier residential community. And I definitely feel that this would negatively impact our specific community, and it would fall far below what I would consider premier. Adding a banquet hall is not appropriate for a research park zoning district, and I'll explain why. It is a significant departure from what my experience is with a research park. My back of my lot backs up to the research park in a different area, but close by where you're talking about. And they've been great neighbors. No problems. They're busy. You know, the activity is Monday through Friday from maybe 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. and then nothing on the weekends, nothing in the evenings. And the proposal that we're talking about here today is essentially the complete opposite in the activity level of what that is. So that is a clear differentiation for what would be typically a research park. We bought our property knowing it was a research park, and it should stay a research park. What has been discussed as far as the negative impact on the home values, I would ask as a clear question, where is the evidence that it will have no impact? Okay? We need a study of some sort. Nothing has been provided except for maybe a one-sentence statement in the proposal from the Planning Commission. That's not enough. That's not appropriate. Even for you guys to make a decision, that's not appropriate. So at a minimum, also, what I would ask is that the definition of banquet hall is set up for other zoning districts. So we really need to look at tailoring any language you may consider for adding the research park in order to accommodate what is being discussed here today. You know, I know that it's been discussed about, oh, there could be restaurants, there could be this and that. We're not talking about restaurants. We're talking about this proposal. This proposal is directly adjacent to our neighborhood. That has to be the focus according to the master plan. Also referenced about, you know, the skating venue and the tennis clubs and other pickleball, this and that. That's not next to our neighborhood. That you have to consider this proposal only because you're adding it specifically for this development proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, Greg Utuma, 127. Again, I want to respect all quorum. But Mr. Addo, how do you take the position that you own property in IP and that you're in support of this because it might benefit you later? Honestly, I'm befuddled that you said that. And then Mr. Schultz, like, how do you, banquet hall is defined in the zoning ordinance. You don't need Miss Bibby on the record to tell you it's like a restaurant. It's like you guys are spot zoning this. And Mr. Addo, you literally said, I want to make them bigger. I don't know what size he wants, but I'm sure it's with what I'm thinking. I mean, this is getting outrageous. I've never seen anything like this before.
Your banquet hall is defined in the ordinance. Mr. Edo, you said we can't have small banquet halls because they're not currently allowed. They are, just on Telegraph Road, where there's no homes. You said in your opening question that we don't allow banquet halls, but you do. Right, Ms. Bibby? On Telegraph Road, in the current zoning ordinance. You just don't allow it in our backyards right now. And you're saying you own IP and you want to encourage this development because it might be better for you later? And you know banquet hall is defined. You know what a banquet hall is. I can read it to you out of your own zoning ordinance. It's not a restaurant. It's a use which provides rental space for such functions, but not limited to wedding parties, conferences, service club meetings, and other similar gatherings, along with the catering of food, services off premise. For the purpose of this chapter be beer, wine, and spirit shall also be permitted. You tell me one expert that says that's the same as a pickleball court. This is insanity what I'm hearing. I didn't even come here that upset, but this is making me upset. You're telling me a basketball venue, a pickleball venue, is the same as a 1,000-person venue in our backyard, drinking alcohol, dancing, getting married in the woods? Right, Mr. Sklar? That's what you told me. There's going to be outdoor weddings, but just not the music. That'll be inside. But the weddings, that's outdoors. And the strolling, that's outdoors. I guess I don't even know what to respond to anymore. I'm hearing we need a spot zone, a certain size that fits his. We don't currently allow it, but we do allow it on Telegraph where there's no homes. But I want to allow it on Franklin Road so that it can affect all these neighbors. But I want to make sure the size requirement I'm asking for fits his proposal, right? I didn't misrepresent what you guys just said. I'm in shock. We're in shock. And then you get mad at us when we get upset. These are our homes. We built our families here. You go home to your home without a banquet hall in the backyard. He goes to Birmingham without a banquet hall in his backyard. But we, if you guys do this, go home to a banquet hall. Not a pickleball court, not a basketball court. Drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, till midnight, 2 a.m. Drunks just running around, because that's what banquet halls do. You've been to a banquet, you've been to a wedding, you've been to an open bar. And your expert is comparing it to a pickleball court? This is insanity.
Tough act to follow again. My name's John Schaefer. I live at 300 North Berkshire. My property is the one they reference 80 feet from the building, right? So I'm going to take a little different tact here. I want to talk about special land uses for a research park as opposed to the Zone B3 general business classification. So when I look at the special land uses available for a research park, you know, you've got your restaurants, your car agency, your sports use accessories. There's a couple words that are missing from every single one of those that is in several of the special land uses of the B3 classification, and that word is alcohol. Nowhere in the research park special land uses mentions anything about alcohol. You want to put a restaurant in there without alcohol? I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as big of a problem. If you look at the special land uses in the B3, you have several places that restaurants possessing Class C and or tavern licenses, cinemas with Class C and tavern licenses. And what I'm saying to you is, by the omission of that in the research park, that it should not be allowed. You can't just add that in. The reason that there's no alcohol in the research park is because it stays quieter. Because this is a bedroom community. Because this is right next to us. The pickleball court you guys are talking about, I know where it is. It's silent. It's all interior. If they stay open to midnight, I don't care. This is going to be 80 feet from my property, 1,000 people. 3 weekend day. I'm sorry, so nervous. Spring to fall, every weekend, alcohol, people roaming around. We talked about having a line of trees between me and that. That's not enough. 80 feet is not enough. The purpose of the special land uses and the reason that alcohol isn't in it for a research park, there's a reason, and it's to keep things quiet for the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Kim Schaefer. I'm John's wife. I live at 300 North Berkshire. I'm not nearly as eloquent as any of them, but I came to the last meeting. I met with Zach. He met with us like 2 weeks after, like a week after that meeting. The residents of Fremont Street were contacted 6 months ago, which I appreciate. I would have liked the same. I would have feel a little more, we'd have more information. We had very little time to react. Or it just felt like it was going behind our back. I liked him. I frequent his restaurants. No problem with that. My problem, which I would disagree completely with Mr. Atcho, just the giant, enormous size of it. It's 80 feet from my property. I understand equally. I have friends who are developers. It's your private property. You should be able to develop it. But I don't need people trying to what? Pee on my garage? I don't, like, people are going to have alcohol. We've all been to giant weddings. And I completely agree. I think the size and the scale of it is the troublesome thing to me, being 80 feet from it. And a line of trees isn't enough. And I appreciate that you get to develop your property. But I feel like you guys, just like the first meeting I watched with you, your minds are made up. I don't feel like you're hearing us. I don't feel like we're respected. I watched people get variances for pickleball courts. People having to move their generators because of sound. But this is okay. I know I'm emotional, and I just think the size and the scale of it, or at least something to block people from wandering into our neighborhood. That's all I've got to say, I guess. I've spoke here before, and you know how I feel, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kelly Forster, 179 North Berkshire, representing my parents, Adam and Nancy Forster, who could not be here for medical reasons tonight. They've been residents of the neighborhood since 1977. It's a nice, quiet, safe neighborhood. It was a beautiful place to grow up. We now have an extended neighborhood with many, many young children, young families who've invested a lot. And under your banquet halls, the number one thing, such uses are subject to the following: compatibility with adjacent existing proposed residential properties shall be a primary concern. That should be your primary concern.
Speak to us, please.
That should be the primary concern. Well, this is the person who's in charge of planning too. So that, you need to take that into consideration. This is a safety issue. Small children in the neighborhood. This banquet hall is supposed to be operating 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to midnight or beyond. Serving alcohol. This is a big, big factor to think about in a neighborhood like ours, that people have invested so much in, so much time and money in to live. So my parents wanted to make sure they're on record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Brower. I live in 213 North Berkshire Road. I moved to Bloomfield with my family around 8-9 years ago. We have 2 little children that they live there happily. They actually hang out with some of the children, our neighbors there. They go alone back and forth, and we feel so relaxed because it's a very quiet neighborhood, very safe. Our concern is what is gonna happen. I personally will not feel safe with my kids going around in their bicycles, walking around, as you mentioned, when there is people drinking in this banquet, which, by the way, I have a question because I would like the board to clarify, is this a banquet, called Banquet Center Hall, but it also will have an amphitheater being constructed on that property rather than, so then it will be an outdoor music entertainment place on top of that. So not only a banquet, also an entertainment. So how will you feel if you will live there where you invested you invested your time. We pay taxes. We put money on these houses. We, as we heard, we turned this neighborhood into a big neighborhood. And everyone is concerned. Yeah, property value, that's a big one, but the biggest one is safety and drunk people going around. So what there's gonna go? What is gonna happen? How we're gonna ensure that that is not gonna happen? Right? So I totally opposed to this development, and I will not support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kaluzniak, 216 North Berkshire. I got to echo what Greg said. I was appalled earlier on. We talked wetlands. You guys all had your opinions made up. You didn't talk about one thing that any resident said anything about. You voted the way you were going to vote before any of us got up here. And Mr. Otto, I mean, really? You have a vested interest. You should recuse yourself right now. I will give you the opportunity to recuse yourself from this vote. You won't do it. Banquet halls are wrong for this spot. And by the way, my property connects directly to the development. Not one person in the developer ever came and talked to me, not one. And I attached directly to the property. They had a Zoom call at noon on a weekday. Are you kidding me? You guys have it in the evening so that we can attend. We have jobs. Noon on a weekday? And you call that connecting with the community? Unbelievable. And it's been said more times than not. Banquet halls are about noise, alcohol, late hours, traffic, lighting. These guys better be planning to come to my house many times because I'll call it in every single time. Because apparently zoning doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to put 2 giant speakers out the back of my house blaring the most violent music in the world, and don't come talking to me about zoning because it doesn't matter. If you have enough money in this community, you're a developer with millions of dollars, you can have whatever you want. You'll change the zoning for them because they've already bought and paid for it. It's unbelievable. You know, we're told to wait for the study. I'd love to see the study. I've never gotten to see the study. M1 Concourse did a study. I had my own study. Did I get to see theirs? No, I didn't. They wouldn't put it on the table. I'm intelligent enough to read a study. I have one from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sensible City Planning, 5,000 pages. It says this is a bad idea. I'll show it to them. I'll show it to you as soon as they put theirs on the table. Now, here's the thing. We got burned once with M1 Concourse. Glad to see the people from Pontiac here, right? Because we weren't invited. M1 Concourse, Bloomfield doesn't care. God bless them, I call these guys. They come out, they don't care because it's coming from Pontiac. Pontiac doesn't care because I'm not a citizen of Pontiac. And the local county sheriff, they direct their damn traffic. They get paid to do it. They're bought and paid for. Are we upset? Yes, we are. Very upset, every single one of us, and this has got to stop here. I'll end this way. I pay taxes. I vote. Honor your zoning. You already have it there. Honor your zoning. Protect the residents that are already there. Do your job. Vote no.
Hi, I'm Ellen Reed. I live at 255 North Berkshire Road. I bought my home 15 years ago. I've renovated on my own. I'm a single person. I'm raising my 7-year-old granddaughter on my own. Now, I bring that up primarily because she is in the school district at Way. She is connected not only with the other kids in the neighborhood, but every adult here knows who she is. Okay? And the point is, you're putting all this emphasis on what's going on the other side of the street or behind us. I look right out my front windows. I'm the postmodern ranch there. I see in clear daylight exactly what's going to go in front of me. Not behind me, and even though that would make a difference as well, but in front of me. So, and I'm just across the street, through the woods. I don't even have a house across the street from me. And the first notice I received was this postcard. This postcard, which everybody should have received a few weeks ago, followed up by a noon meeting. coming soon. I know you guys have seen this. If you read the front and the back of it, and you look at the pictures in the plan, the first thing you think about is, coming soon, when? I didn't know anything about this. Blindsided completely by the board, by the township. Where are the notices that we were supposed to receive? I have not gotten a notice prior to this, and I've been there 15 years.
What's your address?
255. I totally support every neighbor that has stood up here, every person that has stood up here. I have not been to all the meetings because, I have a 7-year-old I'm watching right now and raising. I can't be here. But I do want you to know that this is architecturally beautiful. I work at a company, Fleur Detroit, you probably know much about us, right down the street. I am very familiar with big events. I'm very familiar with the cost of them and what it brings to the table and what it puts in my boss's pocketbook. I get where you're going with it. I don't get that you don't talk to us, that you don't communicate. And you have people up here, state what you want to say, turn it all off, we'll answer you in a minute. Totally lose the continuity of the question and the answer, or that they even go together. Totally controlling every aspect of the meeting. I don't appreciate that as a resident. If you volunteered for your position, great, thanks. Okay? If you're getting paid for whatever position in the township, great. However, you are still obligated to us as residents. I have renovated my house, put a lot of money into it. I keep my property up, and I expect a return. And not a diminished return, a solid return on my property. And will that come up?
We're at 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, good evening. Thank you for the time. My name is Philip Kafka. I'm speaking in 3 capacities. One is a resident of Bloomfield Township. I'm not a neighbor of the property. I want to state that. I don't have as much skin in the game there, but I am a resident of the township. I'm a developer in the city of Detroit and have been fortunate enough to develop quite a bit of land there that had resistance at first, but everybody's been thankful that it happened. And, sorry?
Your address for the record.
Oh, 5530 Shadow Lane. And I'm also a professor of architecture. When I first saw the press about this project, I was excited about the product. And I know that we drive around our world and we're often underwhelmed. And this is a good example of why. It's so hard to get good work done. I'm here today not in adamant favor of the project and not against the project. I'm here to try to push our community to allow for good work to happen. We have some good ingredients here. We have a developer that seems to have amazing taste and has been connected to the community for a long time. I'm speaking as a developer here. I know what can happen when you push back against good projects. You get worse projects. And yes, it might not happen tomorrow or the day after, but it can happen in 2 or 3 years from now. Right now, I think the township, I don't know exactly legally what can be done in terms of a negotiation, but it seems like we have the ingredients for a great project. And inevitably, when there is a reward, there's always going to be risk. And I totally resonate with the risk that the neighbors of this property have. But I'd like to push everybody to kind of think I'm very familiar with the architect, Isaac Mihan, and the landscape architect, Landform. These are world-class designers and architects, and it would be a shame for us to miss the opportunity to try to make a project where everybody can win, because I know as a developer that actually can happen if conversations happen. But we have the ingredients for a great project here, and I'd like to push the township and the community, I understand, and the developer. I understand all your interests and all your concerns to try to make something great happen, because I'm tired of seeing a world that is boring, unattractive, and continues to be uninspiring. I think this project has the potential to be great. I understand the risks, and I'd like to push everybody, our community, our township, and our developer here to try to make this work, because I think there's a reward, and inevitably there is a risk, and we should try to mitigate that as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leslie Keyes. I live at 2208 Somerset Road, Bloomfield Township. I'm here on behalf of my mother. She lives at 135 Bloomfield Boulevard, Bloomfield Township, and her property is 340 Fremont, right adjacent to this development. And I want you to know for the record, she was never, ever contacted once. The first time we ever heard about this project was in the Detroit Free Press on January 25th, 2026. And so I, for the record, just want to say that we're very disappointed that no one ever contacted us. Now, after the article came out, we all of a sudden got letters about this public hearing. But the actual Free Press article was the first time we ever heard about this, and her property is right next to this development. We have concerns. Even though the property is vacant, it's still been in our family for a couple of generations, and we want to make sure that it's not negatively impacted in terms of flooding. We notice on the site plan that there's a retention pond, a large one, right next to her property, and so we have concerns about that. I did send a certified letter because as you can tell by my nervousness, I do not like public speaking, but we did put this in the record. We sent it by email and by certified mail. So hopefully in the future, there will be more communication.
They have a copy of this letter. They should.
Yes.
I'll share it with them.
Yes.
I think you already have a copy.
I think we have it in fact.
You do?
Sure we do. Well,
Wait,
wait,
make sure.
make sure.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Andrew, make sure.
Okay, so, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
Could we please restart the clock? Thank you. As I stated before, my name is Julia Northcott. I am a property owner at 310 North Berkshire. I'm not going to address the proposal right now. I'm going to speak to the zoning singularly. There seem to be a lot of debates and connections being made as to what a banquet hall is most similar to. Is it similar to the current allowed special use categories? Is it not? The good news is we don't need to ask that question. It is answered by the Michigan Building Code, which classifies banquet halls in Assembly Group A2. What else is in Assembly Group A2? Restaurants with liquor licenses, bars, nightclubs, taverns, and casinos, all of which are currently prohibited in Research Park zoning. Furthermore, I've done an exhaustive search of municipal code in the state of Michigan. There is not a single municipality with a comparable Research Park zoning that currently allows banquet halls, either as a land right or special use permission. It is simply not done. And the fact that this council is trying to allow that as a loophole and as a way out of a rezoning process completely mitigates and annihilates the purpose of zoning. We did our diligence when we bought our property. We knew what we were building next to. We understood what was allowed and what was not. We knew that we could live with that. As another of my neighbors said, we currently back to a research park. They're fantastic neighbors. We don't see, hear, nothing. They create less disturbance than our actual neighbors do. No problems. And it is my children, 4 children that I'm raising, that I'm not going to be able to let play in our backyard anymore with 1,000 drunk people running around on our property line. It is unconscionable that this is even a question that is being put or considered before the township. And I categorically object to this proposal. It is your responsibility as representatives, as the township residents, to reject this outright and end it right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is New Jabral. I live at 320 North Berkshire. I bought my house in this most recent summer. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and the property that we're talking about is also very beautiful. And I appreciate the designs that this developer is bringing forward. But on my concerns, I have many. One, we've already talked ad nauseum about the research park and the zoning and the like, and I stand with my fellow neighbors. More so, I have questions about the commission. I feel like, and maybe I have a couple questions I would like to have in the record that you can ask afterward. One, have you guys actually visited the park and the boundary? Are there any specific decibel limits? I think there's outdoor events that are consistently going to be happening. What about amplified music? Outdoor events, you're always going to have amplified music. Even indoor events. late night parties. People like to go outside, have a smoke, take a break. It gets hot when you're around people. Doors are going to be opening and closing all the time. I live 3 houses down from the property. I never received any postcard or notice or anything. So all of this is coming very quickly, so I'm very concerned if there's a chance that this is going to be approved or voted on further today. I also have concerns about even how the question and answer system happened in the wetlands. It sort of seemed like people had a very specific question, and whoever's handling the questions wasn't put in a great position, but he's like, oh, it's a question about parking. I don't think we're really getting our voices heard. I also have concerns about Mr. Addo with what he's talking about his own interest financially. I'm not going to speak on what that is or not, but I have a concern that he's bringing it up openly in front of people, not just about being openly, but he might have a different interest if that's what he's talking about. I have concerns about talking about the research park where, yes, all of those things are indoor. This is outdoor. I've been to large weddings and I love them, and I think that'd be a beautiful place, but not next to all these houses where you're having amplified music. How do you handle, there's questions on how do you even handle traffic, moving in and out, all people moving all at one time. People are loud when they leave these events, especially if you're drunk, right? So concerns about alcohol too. I have, a child and one on the way, and these are very concerns when you're growing a family, and, you want them to be able to go out in the neighborhood. Probably just in closing, my concerns is that I feel like the commission isn't really compassionate or hearing the people. You listen to us for our 3 minutes, but it seems like we very quickly get shoved away and things get moved forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beth Kaluzniak, and I live at 216 North Berkshire Road, directly adjacent to the parcel proposed to be rezoned, and I strongly oppose this request. The existing research park, they are indeed quiet neighbors with predictable traffic and minimal disruption to any surrounding properties. A banquet hall, especially this one as designed, is not comparable use at all. It is not even comparable to any of the special uses that's currently in the thing, all of which would have to come before this commission, and all of us would be here to shoot those down as well, and to ask, please, for you to do the same. This is a high-intensity, event-based commercial operation that concentrates large numbers of guests, vehicles, lighting, amplified sound, particularly during weekend and evening hours. Banquet halls generate a huge amount of traffic, with surges of vehicles' arrivals and departures and headlights shining into our neighborhood properties. Noise is an even more serious concern, one that is impossible to mitigate based on the design itself and based on the use. Beyond vehicle noise, the property has an amphitheater, outdoor gathering areas, with the operator publicly stating there will be amplified music, high attendance outdoor events, and late night celebrations. He said that here, and he said that in the news. Even with imposed conditions, enforcement is reactive and not effective once the facility is operational. We have already experienced the township's inability to shield nearby residents from the impacts associated with the M1 development in Pontiac. Township residents have raised concerns only to be told by the township staff and the supervisor directly that the township cannot control the M1 effects and noise because it is not in the township. Well, you know what? Now you can. You can control the effects of this piece of property on the residents by not allowing rezoning for a banquet hall with built-in outdoor entertainment areas. Further, under the aforementioned Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, a banquet hall is not a demonstrated need. Introducing high-intensity entertainment into a research park is not consistent. It will inherently and unreasonably interfere with our quiet enjoyment of our properties. Approving a rezoning that clearly and foreseeably creates these impacts exposes both the operator and the township to ongoing disputes and litigation. I relied on the existing research park zoning when purchasing and investing in my property. If this proceeds, despite its clear incompatibility and foreseeable impacts, I, along with everybody else, are going to pursue under law actions related to nuisance, reduction in property value, or any other remedies. We will have no choice. You've told us before that if you had the power to mitigate the noise and the impact, you would. I respectfully ask that you do that you deny the rezoning and protect our property owners from harm.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Doug Willoughby. I'm at 71 South Berkshire. We've lived there since 1968, off and on. You know, it was in between, but basically we've been there forever. You know, I didn't plan on getting up and speaking. I completely oppose this proposal, but honestly, everything's been said well. I'm concerned, though, that perhaps it's been ignored. I came here today more as an education for myself. This whole proposal doesn't pass the reasonable man theory. I mean, it smells bad from a perspective of everyone on this board to consider a banquet hall as a legitimate special purpose for a research park. These people, especially the ones close to it, including me, we're close enough that we're going to hear all the noise also, assume that it would be a research park that would go in there. And that's a reasonable assumption. Any reasonable man would come to that conclusion, right? When you think of research park, you don't think about 1,000 drunk people and loud music and all the rest that goes along with an outdoor, indoor wedding venue. So this has really been very educational for me to be sitting here and watching and listening and watching the looks on the faces, the chairperson who spends more time looking at the clock than the person who's talking to him, the man who has a vested interest. This is called conflict of interest. You would, if you were in a publicly held company, you would be up by everybody, every stockholder, you would be on line for it. And I would contend, really, the only currency that you have is the trust of the people in the township. You vote yes on this, you've lost that currency. This whole board becomes, this whole process becomes a joke because we don't believe you. Nothing, I mean, I've heard nothing reasonable. This is absurd, to use Greg's position. I am livid. I came in here with kind of just a, hey, let's find out a little bit more about how something like this could happen. And I'm at the point where I will campaign against every board member on the Board of Trustees if this goes through. I don't know how you got your, okay. Anyway, obviously I'm upset. I wasn't upset till I saw your attitudes, candidly. And conflict, well, at least you disclosed it. I mean, bravo for being upfront about that. I mean, what are we doing here? Sorry. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to be short and sweet on this. Well, maybe not sweet. My name's Stanley Ralph Windler. I live at 194 North Berkshire with my wife, Judy. We've been there since the middle of 1977. I have gone around the world, 6 of the 7 continents. I've visited other people, other places, and I've had those people come to our place. And 201, every one of my guests from other places have said, you live in a park. What a great place to live. And I said, yeah, it has been great. But I was surprised about 3 weeks ago when I found out how stupidly run this place could actually be. I didn't know that there was going to be any consideration of a research park change in my backyard, effectively. I didn't know it. Nobody has come to visit us. This is not the way that a government should be treating its residents. You are there to serve. You are there to come through with a good plan, coming through in an orderly fashion, and this is backwards. Absolutely backwards. You have come for comment, and we have not had any comment opportunity until now, and now is the time that you want to have a decision made? That's stupid. And I expect you to rectify that tonight.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Pierrette, and I live at 210 South Berkshire Road. I'm here to record my strong opposition specifically to the Bloomfield Hollow site and also the proposed zoning amendment. Both represent a fundamental departure from the Charter Township of Bloomfield's master plan and our established zoning ordinances. The Research Park District was codified for a specific purpose: low intensity, professional daytime activity. By design, it's meant to be harmonious with the surrounding residential community. The Research Park District is one of the many districts, and there are other ones, B3, B4. Many of those would be more accommodating than Research Park for something like a banquet hall. Approving this amendment for RP zone feels like an isolated use to benefit a developer rather than the community. It feels like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole that's going to have lots of cash coming. And frankly, once we erode the definition of Research Park, I'm afraid we're going to lose the future standing to protect any future neighborhoods from additional commercial enforcement. I want to be clear. I'm very familiar with banquet halls. I have been a bridesmaid more times than I can count. I love the celebration, time with friends, with family, so I'm not opposed to banquet halls, but I am the way that this is being organized and in my backyard. At the end of the day, I know the operational realities with a banquet hall: amplified music, crowd noise, high-intensity lighting, alcohol-related activity. And honestly, these are not one-time events. It's going to be day after night, after weekend, after week, 365 days a year. It really fundamentally reduces the livability of our residences. This project creates a direct conflict with the peace and quality of life that my family and these neighbors and the value of our homes is absolutely going to go down after this. Because who's going to want to buy a house right behind a banquet hall? Probably nobody. So I also think it's highly questionable that we're hosting hearings for site plans and variances, whether for wetlands or for design, for a development that's not yet legally permitted in this district. Everything is backwards, and it doesn't make sense, and that's why people are angry and they're frustrated. And I don't feel that you guys have adequately communicated with the residents of this neighborhood. The people who are going to bear this burden is everybody here. So honestly, I urge the board to reject this amendment. Please do not trade the long-term character of what you describe as a premier residential community for a commercial project that simply does not fit.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Val Murray. I live on Ballantrae Road for the past 40 years. I do not live in this subdivision. I'm here on behalf of just speaking to the residents. The residents have been reaching out. They're upset, and I get it. If you look back at our master plan and our updated strategic plan, what do the residents want? All the residents want more green space, less development, parks. This would make a great park. Has that even been considered? If I'm not mistaken, I believe this was zoned residential before it was made research park. Yes. So now we're going to take another step. And would any of us really want a banquet hall with 1,000 people regularly in our backyards? There's so many other uses. And in terms of getting questions answered, the developer talked about an amphitheater repeatedly. Then we're told there's no amphitheater, but they keep saying amphitheater. That says outdoor noise. I've also heard the developer talk about phases 2 and 3. What are phases 2 and 3? Oh, I don't know. You need to know this before you make the decision. this is not something to take lightly. You know, on top of it, when I saw the plan, the building is right on top of the houses. And the special nature feature with the water. Why are we building right around and on top of it? Why aren't they considering the northeast side of that lot? Further away from the residents, if that's where you really want to go with this. I think it's all wrong. And I didn't really plan on speaking tonight, but I feel strongly. So I hope you just think carefully for all the residents. Because I don't think this community wants to see this in anybody's backyard. Because, you know, we've stopped doing sports courts in backyards because everybody's doing them, and some of them are right on top of neighbors. And that's gotten to be a negative situation. So those have been halted for now. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dr. Adel Roshdi. I own one of the biggest properties on on Berkshire. I live on 50 North Berkshire. I'm against this project because it's the wrong place for a banquet hall, and we also have a lot of noise issues because this is where Woodward and Telegraph kind of converge. It's just not the right place for a banquet hall. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Brian Diazio. I live in Bloomfield Township. The proposal that is in play right now doesn't immediately would impact me. I am south of Square Lake. Kind of what I'm shocked is at this point, we're discussing a proposal from a developer where at least I haven't seen a comprehensive plan to address most of these folks' concerns, which they've brought up repeatedly, which I would think from a developer standpoint, from a township standpoint, would have been vetted out before we even got to this point, which is noise. How are we gonna handle it? Alcohol, techniques in alcohol management. What are we gonna do on our property? What are we gonna do to confine it? What are we gonna do? Bloomfield Township has told us repeatedly in my neighborhood, they have no control over the roads. Well, what are we doing with the traffic at that point? From these, it's all egress, ingress. I've worked with the public for years, and it's always in short bursts. People coming in, people getting out, so forth and so on. And what do we do with that? Who's paying for that? Is the Township Police Department? Are they getting an increased budget from that? And I would think from a, I'm not slamming the developer, but I would think from at least my perspective that's worked in the marketing position, when you go in and you need to convince, I don't think they need to convince you. I think they need to convince them folks there what they're gonna do and how they're gonna go about it. And have that all worked out before you even come to a public forum, Mr. Saltz, before you even come here to air it out in public. Because and I'll tell you, I've been here from Bloomfield Park, which nobody was for and got forced down our throats. When Target came to my neighborhood and several other neighborhoods, sat down with us as a group, laid out exactly what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it, and they said, what do you think? And we made suggestions about, they wanted to have a exit on the Square Lake. We go, we don't think that's a good idea. We don't want to do that. It's going to be spilling people needlessly at all hours into our neighborhood. Guess what? They closed it up. They took suggestions and implemented those suggestions. By having us as residents have some input, we felt we had ownership over that project and felt better about it. Has it been perfect? No. None of it's going to be perfect. Just as much as when, at the corner of Square Lake and Telegraph, a developer who's well entrenched in this community, Arcajona, took a property took a zoning and migrated it to a whole nother thing and then put in a strip mall there against our neighbors. Our neighborhood, our Forest Lake objection, because what is it gonna do? More traffic, more speeding, more garbage, more theft coming through the neighborhood. We were shot down. So I would suggest to these folks here that have skin in the game as they go forward, you may not be able to stop it, but fight it to help shape it, to get it as best as you can. Because I think what I'm hearing, from what I'm hearing, is it's kind of like, well, it's going to be like Sylvan Table, so forth and so on. Well, Sylvan Table is a different property. It's got a big green space buffer zone between the residents, the property, and things that they're doing here. And from what, I haven't seen that. I saw a little plan up here, and to this young lady, I have nothing against her, but she's referring to banquet halls. She's talking about Telegraph and Roma Hall in the 1980s, when this was a fly speck out in the middle of nowhere. And by the way, where Bloomfield Park at, there was a drive-in theater there.
Sir, your
This
time is up. Your time is up, sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry to run on.
It's not fair to you, and we cut this woman off.
I
It's not fair to you.
appreciate you bringing that to my attention,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sullivan.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate what
Have a
you
great
said.
day.
Good evening. I'm Rosalind Northcross. I came initially because I'm from Pontiac and I was concerned about potential of flooding from this project. But since I've been listening here, I'm also concerned about the noise. I've been in my home in Pontiac for over 50 years, and Pontiac has ignored residents' requests about M1. In fact, Pontiac entered into an agreement which will increase the noise levels up to 110 decibels from auto events this summer. So between the proposed banquet development and M1, it might get loud. Unfortunately, Pontiac people didn't anticipate that the car condos and the test track would morph into what has become today. I applaud the homeowners here for speaking up and speaking out on this issue, because once it's done, additional phases will only make the situation worse.
Thank you. All right, let's bring it back here. Anybody have any?
You have something to say?
questions? Sorry?
I just,
Yeah, it's closed. Close the public hearing. Okay. Go ahead.
you know, this board we work really hard to accommodate not only the residents, yet also the property owner. And the criticism, some of it is just completely wrong, and it's not right. It's when I say not right, it's not truthful. So we're trying to follow the proper order of an orderly meeting so that you do have the opportunity to hear, we can hear your voice, and that we can actually collaborate as a board and make decisions. That's it. And I only say that because people are criticizing some of the way things are happening up here. Regarding what was said and what is up here, I have some reservations. That's it. I mean, it seems like it may not be
I
quite
have
the
something
fit.
I really need to say.
Please do.
I've been accused of having my mind made up. I've been cut off when I asked questions. I've been told I'm watching the clock. Well, I have to, because I have to keep order.
Who's running a
I've been
meeting?
told I'm not paying attention, not listening to you. And I would argue it is you who've made up your minds about us. Before you even sat down, you knew what we were thinking. That's not true, because you know what? When I came in, I came in this morning, had a meeting with the township to go over all this, because I'm chair, I have to look at it. And I went home and I thought about it a lot. I went over to see the property. Someone said we didn't even go over and look. I did. And I have to say, I have a lot of reservations about not only the banquet part of it, changing the zoning, but the project itself as well. And so I'm going to tell you, who all made up your mind about me and accuse me of doing all these bad things, I am not going to support changing the ordinance to put in the word banquet into that ordinance, because I think, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't think that the project, well, we'll talk about the project later. That's not what we're talking about just the language in there. I just don't think to spot zone is the correct thing to do. And so I'm just telling you, I don't think I don't know if
Are
anybody else
there-
here agrees with me, but I don't think that I can support changing and adding that in it. So I just want to let you know that. So
Is
don't
there-
prejudge us.
Is there verbiage that you would support?
Excuse me?
Is there verbiage that you would support? And before we get maybe into that discussion, I do have a couple questions. Are there other locations in the township with banquet halls?
Yes. Well, well,
Right. And I
probably
just
the.
wanted to know.
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, we have the Iroquois Club, and then in terms of it's a
I know that one, but aside from that.
an actual banquet hall. I mean, we have private country clubs, but obviously
Right.
that's not considered
Right.
the same thing. However, they operate in the sense where they do have weddings.
Exactly.
But no, they're not defined as a banquet hall. They're identified separately in our ordinance as a country club.
And they're wonderful. They've been great neighbors.
Well, you asked me if there was any verbiage that I would put in, and I'm going to just say, I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, I took a course at Michigan State before I did this about land use, about planning, and it was pretty specific about looking at the zoning and looking at what it's written and how it's interpreted, and it was very much against spot zoning. That was at Michigan State. So I don't know that there's any language. And they talked about, people here talked about the master plan. Well, yeah, that's a good point. The master plan is coming up, the new master plan is going to be worked on next year. The whole thing. I worked on that one that's there. My name is right on it. And it'll be on the next one too.
All of us.
And, sorry?
All of ours are.
Sorry?
All of us are.
Well, back when it was written, okay, yeah, we all are. That's correct. It will be working on a new one, and maybe we have to look at that as well. But there's no, I just don't think so. I just don't. at
Hear your
this
opinion.
point. So again, I don't know if you'll agree or not agree, but I'm just telling you what I think.
I was having it, I mean, that's a stretch for me.
Any other comments? Neil, anything?
No, I mean, I get concerned, I mean, we've been very respectful to the neighbors, as we should be. We want to listen to you, and at the same time, you need to respect us. We're doing our jobs, and we have not come in with any preordained ideas as far as what we're going to do. We got accused at the last board meeting that this was all made up. We've already decided. There's been violations of the Open Meetings Act. Well, that's insulting as hell, I got to tell you. I've been on the board for 23 years. Never heard that one before. We listen to every plan as it's presented. Every one of us have seen the property. Everyone has seen your neighborhood, and every one of us has heard you. So don't insult us, please, because we've been very respectful to you, as we should be. You're our residents, you are some of our neighbors, but at the same time, please give us the benefit of the doubt, because we know what we're doing, we've done this before, and we're not going to just come in and with saying, okay, this is a done deal. It doesn't work that way, it never has.
Okay, anybody? Okay, what do you want to do? Go ahead.
I'd just like to say the same thing. I've been on the board for 15 years. This is probably the most contentious meeting I've ever attended. And it seems that all of you have walked in here thinking that we've all made up our minds already, like we're getting paid on the side or something. And that's not what we swore an oath to do. We're here to represent the township, but we also are here to see progress in our township. And our job is to weigh the pros and the cons and make the best decision for the township and the developer. So to come in here with a preconceived idea that we've been paid and we're as somebody pointed out or something, I don't know, it's ridiculous, and it's an insult to us for the time and energy that we put forth to represent you and the township and to make proper decisions. So that's all I have
All
to
right,
say.
well, we have a choice, again, three choices. Approve it, not approve it, or table it till we can get more information, or perhaps more meetings with the developer, with whatever. Those are the three choices, so
Okay.
one of the two we have to.
I'd like to discuss that. Since, no, I'm not going to be as snarky as some people have been. I will just say that I think the best approach for right now is, as with a previous contentious issue, which worked out to be pretty good for everybody, is that the developer's consultants really need to spend more time with the neighbors and really need to work with them. It's not to say it's a yes or no. It may not, it still may go through at some point, but obviously there's a lot of pushback and there needs to be some considerations, there needs to be listening and some changes and mitigation in addressing the concerns of the neighbors. And at that point, I think it should, if that happens, then bring it back to the Planning Commission and let's look at it again. But at this time, we certainly hear you, and I think the developer needs to work with you more and to try, again, whether it's moving the property, putting a wall in, whatever it may be. The point is, if it ever comes back to the Planning Commission, if that were to happen where it's not passed, there's always going to be many conditions that are going to be part of an approval process if we get there. So with that said, I think it's in the best interest of everyone at this time that we table this, look at it, really implore the developer and his team to work with the residents as much as possible to try and address as many of your realistic concerns as they can.
Support.
Okay, discussion?
I'd just like to make one comment. Somebody brought up the Target situation, and I can share with you that I controlled that property. I used to own Hillside Furniture, and that property was purchased by me with total control as to what went next door to me. Honestly and truthfully, it was done because I didn't want our van moving next door to me, so I wanted to control what was there. And I got a phone call from the developer that Target was interested in the property, a wonderful company. And I will agree with, I forget who made that comment about Target, but when they originally designed their building, their garbage was facing my door, okay, where they put their garbage. I simply called the folks who were in charge. They completely changed the plan. So people do listen, okay? We're here to listen, and I think the right move is to table this. That was my decision 30 minutes into this conversation. You know, when we get we're here to represent you, but again, to represent the developers as well. But when we see that there's so much anger and misinformation or whatever, that's the reason for tabling this, is to bring it so everybody sits down and gets all the right information.
I just want to make one clarification, though. We're talking about the banquet hall, changing the zoning, adding that, the banquet hall, not the project itself.
Okay.
So that's one step at a time. Now, we can't join it because we have to do the proper order. So right now, we're just tabling the question, the text amendment.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, that was the motion. Just tabling that. Okay,
And I had supported it.
and you support that. Okay, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the next thing, now the question is, since that's changed, we have the next item, is the site plan.
I
Want
think,
it- so-
I think our attorney would like to make.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure, so just because item 4A was tabled, we necessarily need to table 4B because it was reviewing a special land use that would be required.
Okay, well, that's what I was getting
approval
at. I
under
figured.
A.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
so we need a motion to do that.
Thanks,
Is that
Tony,
correct?
and I will make the motion that we table the site plan review at this time, since it really is connected to the text amendment.
Support.
It's been moved to support? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I apologize. Any discussion on that part of the motion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And I would just like to say on top of that, the Planning, Building, and Ordinance Department is open for residents, always open to have conversations.
So I guess without more communication, without adjusting some of these, I mean, that has to happen before it comes back to us, so. We're at this point, it's not approved is what it is, so it's just tabled.
Right.
Okay, just thank you all for coming and voicing your opinions. And we did listen, obviously. All right, next.
All right, so continue. Are you?
All right, let's just take 2 minutes while we.
I guess it depends on if the site plan is substantially changed, maybe. But definitely now that we have everybody's addresses, and, same thing happened with the last project we went through. I wish it would have happened sooner, I wish the dialogue would have happened sooner. Thank you, though, I appreciate it.
Well, every once in a while. Most of the meetings like 10 minutes. Different last.
I'm used to it with CBA.
Yeah, I know.
I'm used to it. Like
Well-
let's plow through this thing and finish it. I would.
Hey, Brooke, oh, he's being
Continue
interviewed by
meeting.
Channel 7.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
But we have to have everybody back in.
You don't have to have everybody. You just have to have quorum.
I know. I'm dead set against this project. It's terrible. But you know what? I can't say that now. I can say it to you.
We're not done yet. We're in the middle of the meeting, actually.
Neil?
We're in the middle of the meeting. Shall we reconvene? Let's go. All right. 3-2. Why don't you get the meeting started?
Corey, I think I just,
Let's continue with this meeting. The only other thing we have is items not on the agenda. Anybody have anything?
thank you.
Well, it's in,
I just,
annual report, right?
what?
Annual
Oh,
report.
the annual report.
Come on,
What am
let's
I
get
thinking?
the general business going.
Yes, I would like to.
Let's continue.
Oh, I'm looking at the wetlands thing. Sorry. You know what? What did I do? Annual report.
Okay, Chair, we're
Sorry,
start our meeting,
I'm
right?
looking at the wrong
Okay, I know.
agenda. Okay.
Okay. So the next item on your agenda is our annual presentation of the annual report. Every year, our planning division prepares a annual report to identify the various projects, site plan, and all the hard work that has been put in by our various boards. So I have presented you have a copy within your packet. I would want to highlight that in 2025, we had approximately 16 site plan reviews, the Planning Commission, which is up 4 from 2024. So you had a very busy year last year. This is just an opportunity for us to share with the board what.
Close the doors.
I think they're closing. I think it's.
Do you
So
want me
this
to
isn't
close the
this.
doors?
We can.
Do you want me to?
Yeah,
I'll do it.
that'd be great. Thank you. I will make this brief. However, am here to answer any questions. But you guys have your Planning Commission bylaws, and as part of those bylaws, it does state that every second meeting in February, that the Planning Division provides you with a annual report highlighting the various decisions that were made by the bodies throughout the years. And we also provide historical records so you can see the trajectory of the progress that we've been making. So with that, I would ask that the township consider making a motion to accept the planning staff report or annual report. I just want to note that Kelly Jacobson in our department works very hard to tally and put together this report and does a beautiful job every year. And so I would ask for you to take a look and see that the Planning Commission saw 99, not 100, 99 variances last year. And then, as I stated, Planning Commission was much more active in 2025. And I anticipate that we'll continue to track site plans throughout 2026, as we do have some that are currently in the queue right now.
Yeah, and if you could thank her for the work she did on the compliment, she did a great job.
I appreciate that, because she really does spend a lot of time, as you can imagine. So please spend some time, read through the report, see all the hard work and all the items that go before our Zoning Board and Planning Commission, and I appreciate that, and I will share that with her.
Somebody want to move to accept this report?
I just have a quick question.
Sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
Did the amendments to the ordinance help reduce the number of ZBA cases? Remember you
Yes.
had a,
Yes, that is our goal.
That's
So
great.
I'm actually considering some new amendments. I'm not really necessarily prepared to address what those are, but we are under that umbrella of looking at what currently goes to the ZBA frequently, what frequently gets approved. I would say that there is an opportunity that I would like to look at in 2026.
I would agree.
Is there any, please share if there's anything in particular. Please do, because
But I
we
think-
also want to look for guidance from our
I think
boards
it's
as well.
great that the work that you did and the adjustments to the text helped reduce the load on the ZBA for things that just keep getting approved over and over again.
Thank you for that. And we will continue to monitor that and be aware of that, because it doesn't make sense to continue to bring back things that are going to be continually approved or have less impact on neighbors. So with that, we would need a motion to accept the annual report.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I just want, one thing I want to say.
Yes.
Ask you. I'm happy that the Board of Trustees put a moratorium on sports courts.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to put input into the language of the, whatever ordinance, however it's changed, that this is going to come.
Absolutely.
I have very specific things I'd like to put in, and I hopefully we get a chance to look
Oh,
at it.
absolutely. I would imagine there'd be a study session involved. We definitely need and want input. So we will be reaching out to the public to get input related to that. And absolutely, we want to hear from you.
Okay, great.
Because that's really the task at hand, is developing an ordinance that would help alleviate some of the concerns that have been presented to date.
Yeah, well, I also,
Yes.
I want to add, I'd like to add to that, is that impervious surfaces, looking at how we calculate it over the whole property, that's another subject. Okay, I just want to make sure we get a chance to
And
see.
that was brought up at the board meeting, as you recall.
I think I recall that, yes, I
Yeah,
know,
so-
but were you listening? Did you listen to us?
I do listen, I do listen, Jeff.
Okay, thanks.
I'm a
That's all.
good listener.
Okay, anything else? Then we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And we're adjourned. Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, thanks.